shall proceed. Everybody ready? Yes, sir. Kristen, you ready to go? Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the City Council of Universal City, Texas. It is Tuesday, December 20th, 2022. Believe it or not, the last council meeting before of this 2022 year. So thank you for coming this evening. Appreciate it. So I'll call the meeting to order now at 6:30 p.m. and call for a quorum check, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Neville.
Here.
Councilmember Bus.
Here.
Councilmember Goolsby.
Here.
Councilmember Najarian.
Here.
Councilmember Shelby.
We'll discuss in a moment.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Here.
Quorum is present, we shall proceed. The invocation this evening will be given by city staff, and I believe that'll be Kristen this evening.
Can you silence your tie as well?
I have to sit on the tie, and I didn't do that on purpose, but I think I must have accidentally bumped against the granite here. Okay, Kristen, that's a good leader for you.
And your ties.
Good leader for you, Kristen. And please stand, and I'll lead us in the invocations after.
Heavenly Father, thank you for being the God of mercy and grace and for giving us a reason to celebrate this holiday season. I thank you for the blessings that you've given us all in 2022, and I'm looking forward to what you'll bring us in 2023. I pray that as City Council and staff, we stay mindful of our great responsibility and that we keep you in the forefront of our hearts and minds in 2023. In your name I pray, amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
So you have the entire recording of my... If it happens again, I'll just flip it over. Okay, thanks everyone for coming this evening. We have an interesting agenda, and so we'll proceed. And the first item we have is our consent agenda. Oh, actually, no, we have to vote on Councilmember who won't be here this evening. Councilmember Shelby has an engagement that he really could not get out of. He was working on it, but he just did something, another volunteer group that he's participating with, so he was unable to make it. Move for approval.
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem Neville made motion, second by. Okay, Councilmember Najarian. All right, any discussion? All right, call for the vote, please, Chris.
Mayor Pro Tem Neville.
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Councilmember Buck.
Aye.
Councilmember Goolsby.
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Aye.
That motion passes. I'll tell William called me this morning. He also called Kristen to us, so you're very well. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the consent agenda, which is tab number 8. All matters listed under this item, you can see it, and the audience is routine by City Council, enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion. If someone does want to pull one of the items out and discuss it separately, we can certainly do that. So I'll entertain a motion, and we'll see if anyone wants to pull something out.
Move to approve. Second.
By Councilmember Najarian, second by Councilmember Goolsby. Any further discussion? All right, first call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Councilmember Goolsby.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Neville.
Aye.
Councilmember Buck.
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Aye.
Motion passes. Let me clarify for the record for everyone so you're aware that one is to consider the minutes of our last council meeting. The other was to consider an ordinance to repeal ordinance 410 and 410A relating to authorities and articles committee for the promotion of Universal City. And item C was another ordinance related to the same municipal disaster emergency services committee. And so those are the items that this was the second reading on both of those items. So let's move on now to our citizens to be heard. As you can see, it's time for citizens to address council on issues or concerns. It has to be informative only. We expect that, and we've really been very, very, very pleased at the participation of our citizens for a number of years now. We really do care about what you have to say and how you feel about particular issues. So there were 2 individuals who signed up this evening. Ms. Kim Lagerhart was the first one to sign up, so ma'am, please come forward.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Kim Lagerhart. I live at 736 Garden Meadow Drive. 4 months ago, I submitted an open records request, which read in part, quote, at the City Council meeting on August the 16th of 2022, Mr. Lunsman held up a highlighted list and read off some of the streets that have been worked on and some that are slated to be worked on. I am requesting a copy of that complete list as it currently exists. I further am requesting a copy of all documents pertaining to the condition of roadways that were relied upon in creating that list. This would include engineer reports, citizen complaints, employee inspections, etc. End quote. As you know, the city failed to prevail in its request to the OAG to withhold this information. The OAG on November 17th stated, quote, "The city must release the submitted information." End quote. That was November 17th. 2.5 weeks later, December 6th, I received the engineer's report. Nothing more. While I have repeatedly followed up, I have yet to receive the highlighted list. The normal turnaround time for fulfilling a record request is 10 days. I have been waiting for 4 months. If I were to guess, I venture to say that the only documents the city gave to the attorney, and the attorney subsequently gave to the OAG, was the engineer's report. Nothing more. If I were to guess, I'd venture to say that Mr. Lunsman anticipated a favorable ruling from the OAG, but given that I cannot see which documents were actually submitted to the OAG, he would be able to then withhold the highlighted document hiding behind the OAG ruling. But that's speculation. If the highlighted document was not provided to the attorney, then it should have been promptly turned over before the election. Texas Government Code, section 552.001, verbatim. The people in delegating authority do not give the public servants the right to decide what is good for the people to know and what is not good for them to know. The people insist on remaining informed so that they may retain control over the instruments they have created. End quote. Knowledge is power. Ultimate power rests in we the people. Documents created by city staff belong to we the people. We cannot continue allowing city employees to blatantly violate the law with pompous impunity. Please, I implore you, start doing what needs to be done to restore the rule of law to University City. Would one of you please find out when, or even if, I can expect to receive the missing documents? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vaughan. Okay, the other individual that signed up this evening is Mr. Anthony Schneider, but he's asked to wait for his comments until we get right before tab number F, so we'll do that. We'll be happy to do that. Did anyone else want to address the council that didn't get a chance to fill out the form? Okay, good. Let's proceed on then to our business for this evening. First one is going to be a public hearing in a minute. Request to approve a specific use permit to Solar World Texas LLC for an automotive repair services used in a C3 commercial services district on property located at 1734 Pat Booker Road, Universal City. So what I'll do is first introduce our city manager for some comments, and they make a short presentation, and then I'll open the public hearing, so you guys can just, if you have any specific things you want to bring up at that time, we'll do that, and then we'll proceed from there. So, Ms. Turner?
Thank you, Mayor. Michael Casada is going to handle the introduction and the public hearing.
Okay, Michael.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. Mayor and Council, as identified in your packet, the applicant is looking to establish a tint world at 1734 Pat Booker Road, which is a property that has been vacant for about 2.5 years, formerly a liquor store. Because this property is zoned C3 commercial services, a specific use permit is required. And just a reminder, for a specific use permit, if it is granted, it is specifically for this tenant, for this user. If they were to vacate the property anytime in the future and someone else wanted to come in and do the same thing, they would have to go through this process. The property is about 1/2 acre. The building as it exists is 4,500 square feet. The applicant is looking to install a garage door on the east side of the property, so the side of the building on the right-hand side if you're looking at it from the street. The applicant is here today to give a brief presentation and answer questions. According to state law, we did send out 17 notices to surrounding properties within 200 feet of the subject property, and we have not received any responses or inquiries. That's all.
Okay, we'd like to have your applicant make the presentation as well, and then we'll move on to the public hearing. So come on up and introduce yourself.
Okay. Is it okay from here?
Well, yeah, grab the mic off the, because we record this, so I want to make sure.
You just push that, it'll be on. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, we record everything, so that's why we'd like you to do it. Yes, you can do it from there.
Thank you.
So Dan, let me get you a setup here.
All right. While he's doing that, Mayor, Council, and members of the community, thank you for letting me be here this evening. Look forward to hopefully becoming part of the community, but we will just trust that things work out the way they're supposed to. Okay, that said, indeed, I am here to talk to you about my tip world. Do I have?
Yeah, just tap it.
Can you all see this screen just now? Come on, play nice.
I would use the arrows on the keyboard. Thank you.
Just push the button, push the arrow.
Do you want me to put it in presentation mode?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, indeed, as we've already discussed, I'm Dan Billings, here to request approval for the special permit. I have been awarded the site plan, the approval for site plan from Tint World Corporate, which is a franchisor out of Boca Raton, Florida. Been down there to meet with those folks, and after a lot of due diligence, decided to pursue this business. This is these are the plans. This is the layout of the store. So this is the Pat Booker Road, the entrance. This line right here divides. This will be the this will be the shop, and this, as Michael shared, would be where the door will be. And then I also have displays, which you'll see here just momentarily, and have the ability to bring either an automobile or a side-by-side or some kind of cool vehicle in to let customers see window tint and different things like that. With Tint World, I will be doing zero automotive repair. None whatsoever. I don't know how to do auto repair. I make cars cool. That's all I'm there to do. No oil changes, nothing whatsoever in regard to that. It's classified as a clean business, so it's a little bit different even though it's an automotive repair. This, of course, is the building in question. Right here, in between the emergency door and this column, is where the garage door would be. I will be cleaning up the property. In the time that I've been looking at this property, this has been tagged, and I will not have a need to paint any of the rest of the building. It's in beautiful condition other than where it's been tagged, so I would take care of that. I did run just some brief numbers. This is what I anticipate in revenue year one, about $750,000. Total tax revenue around $61,000, and then 2% city revenue around $15,000. I won't read all of them, but you can see this is actually my goal. This is what I should be able to do in a business like this. I've been in business for 40 years, and this is my passion. So that's where I anticipate being in 4 years. I also have received a commitment from Mercedes in Selma, so I'm excited in regard to Universal City to be bringing revenue in from outside this area. So I anticipate all of their window tint business, along with a lot of different car wraps. We'll be talking about that in just a moment, but if somebody has a red car and they want it blue, we can do that. Along with the cars that they talk about, they want me to do, I've already put together the numbers, they want me to do, I'll also do residential and commercial window tinting, so there's about a $12,000 job to do at the Mercedes dealership over there. And then those customers, that drive the Mercedes would actually come to our location in our city and be spending money here. So, as far as what business we do, commercial, residential, window tinting, along with auto and truck, and then paint protection film, just a clear film that either goes on the hood or on the windshield and prevents rock chips from tearing up the car. Of course, vehicle wraps are either graphics like we see with plumbers or roofing companies, or like I said a few minutes ago, if you've got a red car and you want it blue, we can handle that. Also, a lot of automotive detailing and ceramic coating. I'm going to address this right now. There will never, ever be a reason to have any vehicles left outside overnight. Also, when I do a ceramic coating, I do have the car at least 48 hours, but it'll be inside. It needs to be in a dirt-free, protected area. So any vehicle that would be left overnight would be inside the shop. Along with that, auto security, remote starts, backup cameras, stereos, and then literally hundreds and hundreds of auto and truck accessories. You have a pickup truck and you need some running boards, we got you. With Tint World, one of the things that attracted me, I like things nice. I keep everything in my life nice and tidy, and they have strict standards. So I'll show you a couple pictures and then we'll move on. But I would put some signage on the front of the building, very similar to this. It says Tint World. And then if you may not be aware, but there's a large street sign up in the air, approximately, I would say 6 by 6, something like that. There would be a Tint World, lighted Tint World sign there. Just another example of a current franchisee. One last one. There's one last one. Inside the store, flooring will be like this. Walls are just like you see here, yellow. The cashier's desk has 2 checkout areas. All of the displays are interactive. Every single one has information. We just literally lay things out in front of the customer and they can see the differences on the different qualities that we have available. There's at least 3 to 4 in every category. Window tint, ceramic coating, different button to fit different budgets. There will be free Wi-Fi in a coffee bar. The customer waiting area is always done very nice, so that's what that'll look like. One last picture of that. The shop itself will be just like this, gray on the bottom, yellow racing stripe, white walls up above. The flooring will be done in the sport race material that's very popular to do in garages nowadays. So the entire shop will also be just as clean as the store. Grand opening, when I do a grand opening, of course you all will be invited. Indeed, I hope to have Mayor come if he can make time for that. But I put about $10,000 into the grand opening. So a lot of radio commercials, the jumping thing for the kids, the Alamo Corvette Club is already committed to coming, and then I have a hot rod club that's planning to be there. Then I also we'll have a couple food truck and some live music as well. Look at that, and that's all I have. How about questions?
Well, what we'll do, the way we need to conduct this is,
Yes,
you
sir.
made the presentation now, what I'll do is open up a public meeting.
Perfect.
Let anybody discuss it as they wish. When we close that, then council will, we go to the next item, which is tab B, okay?
Thank you.
That's our procedure. So, it is now, what, 6:50? Let's go ahead and open up the public hearing now. And would anyone like to make some comments based on presentation this evening about this particular request, project?
I'm going to spend a small fortune there. That's not my cheap.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, good, I'll close it, I'll just go ahead and close the public hearing then at 6:51, and we'll move on now to the tab number B, which is to discuss and consider ordinance 655H 2023, ordinance approving a specific use permit to Solar World Texas LLC for automotive repair service, a use, no, that's not it. Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it is, it's correct, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. The different name there, right?
Yes.
Okay. On property located at 1734 Pat Booker Road, Universal City, providing for non-severability and establishing an effective date. This is our first reading, so now I'll open it up to council. If you have any specific questions of Michael or our
Dan.
potential new tenant, let's move on. Paul?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, when I was looking at the schematic, the site plan layout,
Yes, sir.
and just quick question, it shows here, tire center. But you didn't see, I didn't see anywhere where you're dealing with tires.
I will not be doing that. There is a consulting group that puts those plans together, and they add that when they send the site plans over. I will not have a tire machine. I will not be doing.
So there won't be lifts or anything in there?
There will be one lift, but we use that to do detailing so that we can lift it up and get down to the bottom of the vehicle. But as you well know, you have plenty of tires and wheels here locally. I do not need to compete with all those folks.
Yeah, I think there was some people asking, it's like, don't we have plenty of auto shops? And I'm looking at this plan, I'm like, but it's really not an auto shop. I noticed there's only one other one in San Antonio, about 8 miles away.
Yes, currently, and then there's one under construction in New Braunfels. There is one getting ready to open in Buda, and there's one in Austin, and 2 more under construction.
So, which is nice. It's not like this particular tin world is like
Just all on its
invaded
own.
all over, and there's one like 3 miles down the road from us.
Yes, correct. They keep us all at least 20 miles apart.
I like the layout and the plan. Just, I wanted to address one thing. You were talking about the graffiti on the side of the building.
Yes, sir.
That the building was significantly, it was already nicely painted, so you would just go over. Hopefully the paint you would be going over there would be an exact match of everything else. Because I noticed, all of us notice that painting, you get graffiti painted, that one section
some
is not
blush.
quite matte.
Yes,
There's
sir.
nothing there, but it's a different color.
Yes, sir.
I would kind of like to have that blended in.
Yes, sir. I assure you it will. And may I add one thing? Forgive me, I should have shared with you. Also, the parking lot will be resealed, restriped. The signposts will be painted, and the light posts will be painted as far as exterior, but nothing to the front of the building itself.
And you would be right next door to an auto shop.
And right next door to an auto shop.
Yeah, I like the design. I can appreciate, and that building's been open for 2.5 years. Definitely a retail facility, but to me, this is pretty retail too. And from my line of thinking, it fits right in. So, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, good. Anyone else? Okay, this definitely will require a motion. Mr. Goolsby?
Thanks, sir. Sorry, can you go over what the exterior, you're not doing any building improvements, you're cutting in a door and you're updating the paint on the building,
And a build out inside, interior, walls, and flooring material and paint. No, the outside of the building, the structure is beautiful, just like it is.
I was just noticing that some of the other window worlds, we have a two-tone paint, the darker with the lighter. I was wondering if you were going to go that direction at all.
No, this particular building does have some two-tone to it now, but Tint World Corporate does not demand an exterior color.
Okay.
It's really the signage on whatever the facility is that's there.
Okay, then I also saw that you do have audio as well.
Yes, sir.
Growing up when I did, I know that I had friends that had lots of audio. How much of your business is audio?
It will start, as I start, around 10%. However, the goal is for it to be around 33%. One of my
I'll start immediately with 4 employees plus myself, and one is called a 12-volt technician, and so we'll be ready to handle all of audio day 1. But that one takes usually around 6 months. Marketing and advertising before you've got the rhythm in that particular area.
Because when I look at the site plan and I see the directly behind you is there is a residential neighborhood directly behind you.
Yes, sir.
When we're talking audio, are you talking competition type audio cars?
No, sir.
You know where I'm headed, right?
I do know where you're headed. Noise will not be an issue. We simply have someone come in that doesn't like the factory stereo. We do an upgrade, or all of a sudden a person would like a remote start. I'll get back on the stereos and such. We're just upgrading stereos that are already there. Just some of the newer equipment with the screens, and then indeed some additional speakers. But all of our services are done in the building with the garage door shut. And the reason I'm emphasizing that, we need to maintain a constant clean room.
So what type of, he's a great guy, I like him a lot. But I'm gonna look up one day and he sells his business to somebody and that business stays there. And do we have any teeth that says you're being too loud?
Yeah, so if you look at the proposed ordinance, we put a provision in there that if any time the city feels like it needs to go do an investigation or assess the situation with regards to noise or any other item, then we can do that and then rescind. The city council has the option to rescind that specific use permit.
Okay, so.
And if he leaves and somebody else comes in, they have to get their own specific use, so you put the criteria back onto the next owner as well.
So how hard is that? Because again, he's a great guy, but the guy he sells it to is not quite as nice. But we give him his special use permit as well. How hard is that? Do we have to get the lawyers involved, all that stuff, or is it just, hey, you were a jerk and we're going to pull your special use
Yeah, it was
permit?
like voluntary compliance first, right? Always with the gentle approach. I don't see any need for an attorney at that point. It's no different than when we're addressing a noise issue in a neighborhood, whether it be from a car that's down the street or somebody that's having a party. It's usually just a, hey, we've had this complaint, if you can keep it down just a little bit or keep it to these certain hours. People are pretty good at complying.
And then push comes to shove, there's best management practices, there's engineering noise standards that I'm sure you're aware of, and so there's certain decibel levels that are acceptable for different types of uses, and so if we really needed to, we could measure those and then they would have to comply.
We have that equipment?
Now we would have to hire a consultant to do that for us, but that is something that is available in the worst case scenario.
I do worry about the people up there. I mean, I have amazing neighbors, but every now and then they have a party and it's like, oh my gosh. And then, it goes away. But if this is a constant audio.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we talked about with Dan in the beginning is we wanted to, because there's that residential neighborhood behind, we wanted to make sure that proper noise mitigation would take place. One of the things, we asked him the questions that you just asked, and that's why we proposed, and just based on his business model, that door has to be closed. Especially since it's on the side, we wanted to make sure that that door would be closed at all times.
I think I've done this for me.
Very good.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, this does require a motion to approve this ordinance.
Motion to approve, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Butts, second by Councilmember Najarian. Any other discussion, anybody? All right, Chris, call for the roll, please, ma'am.
Councilmember Bug?
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Neville?
Aye.
Councilmember Goolsby?
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan?
Aye.
Motion passes. Welcome to the neighborhood.
Thank you. I'm excited. I'm very excited.
Looking forward to it. It's a great concept. A great concept. And you already have one citizen who's decided she's going to spend a lot of money with you.
Yes, I actually have 3.
All right, great. Let's move on to tab number C then. This will be a presentation of supplemental data for Loop 1604 and Byrd PUD concept plan. So they presented to us, as you remember, the last council meeting actually. The last council meeting. So another you can take another look at some of the discussion items that we had?
It's not gonna be as good as his presentation.
All right.
I don't recognize the same either.
You're on.
And I believe we put you up on the
I'm sorry,
free
can I
screen.
stand here, young lady?
Yeah, of course you can, yeah,
I
of
got
course.
my notes down
This
here.
is Sean Ferris, by the way.
So let me, give-
Last time he was here.
Kind of a brief introduction here. My name's Sean Ferris. I own the company PF Properties. It's a commercial real estate business here in San Antonio. The Mailers have been clients of ours for about half a decade, and we've done multiple real estate deals together, including a couple retail deals, including storage units, and including car dealership deals. And hopefully some more in the future here nearby. My job working with them a lot of times is oftentimes trying to convey to clients know that we should not go forward with a certain thing for various number of reasons. And it's not an easy part of the job, but it's what comes forth. One of the council members brought forth a pretty good question last time we spoke. He says, what's the relationship in sales tax revenue towards square footage of retail that goes up? I thought that was a dynamite question. I'd never heard it placed before, and so my job was to go out and do some research and figure out who has that sort of data. And I called a bunch of retail developers in and around town. I called a group out of Chicago that does retail work, and I said, okay, hypothetical 10,000 square foot building, how much sales tax revenue do we generate per square foot? And nobody had exacting data. We can give a best estimate, but I can't narrow it down straight to the penny. So I can't tell you something I know is the absolute gospel truth. All I can tell you is, here's what I found out. Here's what I think is in your best interest at the end of the day. So if you look at the map, I think there's one behind me as well. This is the vacancy that we have right now. When I drove down Pat Booker and Kitty Hawk Road of what would be our potential, if we were to develop a retail center, here's who we're competing with in Universal City. Specifically, there is one that is a shadow retail development of Walmart that's about 50% occupied, and it's occupied and nobody produces any sales tax revenue. In my industry, if the Mailers wanted to go out and acquire a retail center, I would recommend that we work on massaging the owner of that retail center and seeing if he'll sell it to us. He would. It would take time, 6 months to a year, but he would eventually do it. How do I switch slides? I don't know.
Just tell me, Kristen has it in the back.
I'll give you this now, okay? So here's also what's coming down the pike in terms of Universal City's done very well with this piece of property. I'm very impressed with the foresight y'all had, but y'all are negotiating about a 41-acre mixed-use development here that should be coming on board here, depending on when it all gets approved. The next slide is the church that owns this real estate here. I've been in talks with them. I have their approval. I've spoken with the Mailer family about this. They've allowed me to take the listing, even though it would be in competition with them. And I've spoken with Pastor Ryan of the church and set pricing and timeline expectations, of which they are very agreeable. They're not going to utilize the space. It's a good time to sell the space, and they have some money where they can redeploy the capital towards helping widows and orphans. So that's our competition next door. If you look at the off-ramp right there, it leads straight into the church's property. It doesn't lead straight into ours. It's kind of a dangerous right-hand curve. So that's our competition. We've got 46 acres. In here, in the immediate vicinity at 35 and 1604, there's 3 million square feet of retail space that is available. And on the corner there where IKEA was developed is owned by a group in Dallas. They have tried to go out and get retail centers pre-leased, and they have not been successful at this point, so they've sold off some of their parcels. Obviously, IKEA is the big one, and then you've got some standalone restaurants there as well. The challenges with the 2-acre mid-block is basically anytime I've ever done a retail center, ever in my life, it's been at a signalized intersection, okay? We, by and large, will not touch that as a firm if it's not at a signalized intersection, okay? There is a lot of retail in the area, and COVID has completely changed the game. All of y'all have probably done your Christmas shopping by now, and I'll venture a very strong guess that a lot of y'all have probably done it on Amazon versus going to shops and things like that. So the retail game has changed, and when I called Frost Bank with this project, who is a bank that we use quite a bit, well known, I asked the banker, I said, okay, if we do this retail center, how much do I have to be pre-leased before you'll underwrite the loan? And he said 50% is the number, by and large. I have to have 50% of tenants ready to go before they will underwrite the loan. I'm not that good, and nobody I know is that good. And if you know anybody that good, I'll happily hire them and pay them a large signing bonus on that particular deal. So what we did is, I did my best estimate of what it would look like in a 5-year snapshot, which is how we do all real estate deals. Anybody that can tell you they can do a 10-year snapshot it's a lot of speculation way out into the future. And so if you look here on the tax rolls, the land's worth about $5 a foot. That's what it's worth true money today if we were to go out and sell the property. To do a retail development, I've got 2 going on right now, and if we're lucky, we will have the walls up 12 months from now. That's if we're lucky, if everything goes right. Which is, we're expecting things to go somewhat south with labor and things of that nature. So, year 1 through 3, that's the tax revenue we can generate to Universal City. $2,352 a year. Year 4, it almost quadruples to $8,100, and then year 5 is $41,200. That is an interesting note because in my research, I think that best case scenario, you're going to have, if you can get it occupied, if the bank underwrites the loan, if I can get a pre-lease, maybe 5,000 square feet of tenants who are actually generating sales tax revenue. Okay? And on a very liberal assumption, that's the general rule of thumb is $250 per square foot of revenue needs to be generated from a retail client to make that site work, okay? Because the rent needs to be about 8% of the total retail sales. So that gives us that number right there. Projected sales tax revenue is 5,000 feet times $250 a foot times 8.25%, and then that splits it up into 2% to Universal City and the remainder to the various taxing entities. And do any of y'all have any questions on that slide? One more, how about that? Okay. And the Mabel family is by and large, their bread and butter is storage development. They own retail, they bought retail this year. We have, with them, bought retail in the past, we've leased up retail, and we've sold retail. They're not opposed to retail at all. Not in the slightest. But we've done a SWOT analysis. I've had the property on the market for 2.5 years, marketing it as a retail center. Here's the number of prospects I've got right now. The mailers have identified that the supply and the demand, that the demand is able to support the supply of a 3-story climate controlled storage unit. And so these are the projected numbers right here. Year 1 will obviously start off with just the land. Year 2, the storage development will be worth about $7 million. And I've projected that the storage unit will increase 3% per year, which is a pretty conservative estimate, even with the slowdown of the real estate market this year. And from that, we generate we split up the sales tax revenue. Obviously, the first year, Universal City will get close to $38,000, a little bit more than $38,000 because they'll be selling some goods and services out of the facility. But it's a steady cash flow line, and the difference at the end of the day between $776,000 and the previous number of $248,000 is just over $500,000 to the city of Universal City. And you've got a storage developer who is ready to go, who is capitalized, and who knows what they are doing. So I never get to address large groups of people. I mean, it's always one-on-one. So I apologize if I ran over myself. But
Okay.
questions, anything like
Well,
that?
it's our opportunity now as council to give you some comments on how we feel. We've already had one presentation, certainly at one time. So let me open it up to our council for any specific questions or comments that we'd like to make. Anybody specifically? Okay, Paul?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, I do appreciate, I've been looking at the numbers and the way you presented it. You're out there, to me, it feels like you're being as candid as you can about the situation. And personally, looking at, in my job, I do a lot of work with storage facilities. And I've been in some really nice storage facilities, and I've been in some trashy storage facilities. With the, and this is not a question, I'm just giving this as a statement for the record. Personally, with the type of development that has been put there and with the apartments and everything, I really liked the climate controlled, something that has been needed here. A lot of the nice companies that I've worked with are right off a main thoroughfare, such as something like 1604. And personally, I think it's something that and I see what direction you're looking at with retail. And we all know, yes, the game has changed in that. Retail is still alive, but it's live in a lot of different type of venues that we're not totally used to. So yeah, I appreciated personally that facility there, and it's nice to look if it's going to remain that way, and there is a big need for that in this community. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all I have.
Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Byrd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to clarify the property that we're talking about is the one that's between Aviation and Byrd along 1604, where we're planning to put in that. So we had a presentation about this 2 city council meetings ago, right? Good. Speaking from personal experience, I've struggled at times to find a storage location. When I was moving from a location overseas and my lovely wife and I were combining our households, I struggled to find suitable storage locations to put the excess furniture and household goods that we together were bringing into the marriage. So I certainly feel for everybody who struggles with that, and I for one, welcome the addition of high quality storage capabilities within Universal City. You're not trying to catch the eye of people as they're driving along the road, like for that retail spot, right? Like, oh, I didn't see that. Let me turn in here and go see what that is. You're looking for the investment of long-term tenants, for lack of a better term. They're going to bring their stuff in there, but it's not a retail location. So from my perspective, I welcome the addition of that storage and hope that we can move forward with all of this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else?
But as I kind of mentioned you guys in the hallway, I'm encouraged to let you guys kind of do what you want to do with your property. So I like the plan. I don't have any problems with it. I know Mr. Goolsby brought up some concerns about what maybe could be there, and that's maybe a little more prominent location, but I think the traffic is not great, and this is a better use than the retail. My only concern about moving forward is the traffic on that turnaround. I think we did have an accident today, didn't we, down there?
I don't know about one there today, but I know that in the next text dot improvement that will be cleaned up.
What does that mean?
So,
The ramp's actually going to be further back than where it is right now.
Sorry.
But they already have the sub out where it's going to be. You can actually see it, but it's further back.
Oh, you mean to get on 1604 coming up the
Yeah,
hill?
so it'd be easier transition into Byrd on the next phase.
What about making it the U-turn underneath? Will it be easier to make a left on there without, you have kind of
The
blind
U-turn
spots.
the U-turn's going to stay the same.
So not a traffic light or anything, it'll still be just a...
Because they're going to bring the bridges over the 78 and the bridge, and so it's going to connect right there. So everybody's going to be exiting off, and people from the converse will be traveling through there in the next phase.
Okay.
So it's going to be a lot safer conditions moving forward once they do the next phase.
Okay.
Very good. Anybody else? Mr. Goolsby.
Thank you. I also appreciate a good storage unit. I've moved lots of furniture. Being the big guy with the truck amongst my friends, I tend to move a lot of furniture. But I'm still not sold on a storage unit here. It's an excellent presentation. I see where your numbers are and where they're going. You basically, the city gets a jump start with the storage units as far as the income to the city. So that 5-year plan, you're going to make more. You make more. The city gets more in tax revenue early on, and even in the long term because they never really catch up. But I'm also looking at offerings to the city and what we can do there. And I know that you know the HEB is there, the Walmart is there. That exit is becoming very prominent, and I just feel that taking one of our few remaining highway frontage and putting forgive me, but a giant box there, as beautiful as those boxes get, because I understand that, they do get very nice, is not what I'm personally looking for in the city. I mean, you've got a lot of positive feedback from the council already, but I'm still not sold that that's where we want, that I want us to go, but I'm one of 6. So I'm just saying, I'm still not excited about the idea of a storage unit. You can go down Byrd, come into the North Lake. I assume we can build storage in North Lake.
Yeah.
Granted, it doesn't have the highway frontage, but I feel like, from my personal opinion, I'm still not excited about it.
Okay, well, you've gotten some mixed comments. That's pretty much what you did the last time you presented to us. So I'm glad you came back again this evening and gave us another perspective. And so you've heard from members of council. And obviously the next step is up to you. Right.
He's the only person I know other than my father that wears a bow tie. I don't see you wearing a bow tie.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Thank you all so much.
Again, thanks very much.
Shine light on the issue.
Thanks very much for coming to see us again this evening. That's what these sessions are all about. We have an opportunity to give you our input as to how we feel about particular issues, and you see that we're not all the same at all, for sure. So thanks again for coming back this evening. Appreciate it very much. Okay, next item is tab number D, discuss and to consider resolution 620-2022. It's a resolution of the City of University City, Texas, outlining its policy for the investment of public funds. So,
thank you, Mayor. In 1995, the Texas legislature passed the law requiring cities to have an investment policy. In 1997, they made a couple of modifications to it, and since 1997, it hasn't changed at all. So what I did in this investment policy is I really just cleaned up for Mr. Neville some grammar and punctuation, although I'm sure he'll find some more and he can point that out to me. And then there were a lot of acronyms in here, and I tried to get rid of as many as I can and just go with the actual wording. Other than that, there is nothing changed. It's very conservative. Obviously, safety and liquidity are the #1 items. As a city, we basically stick with our savings account and tax pool, which is very conservative. We have the options for going out for certificates of deposits or money markets, money market mutual funds. If the council so chooses, it's typically never been a policy of the city to do that, but we are required to re-adopt this annually, and so we have it before you for consideration.
Move for approval.
okay, motion made by Councilmember.
If he's gonna move for, I'm definitely.
Bill made the motion. Who's the second? Ms. Goolsby. Okay. Any discussion? Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. All right. Chris, call for vote, please.
Councilmember Vaughan,
Aye.
Councilmember Goolsby,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Neville,
Aye.
Councilmember Buck,
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Did I miss someone?
We're only 5 tonight.
You're good.
Yeah, okay.
You're good.
Silent.
Good.
I was
Mr.
like,
Shelby's not here.
What happened? We're not in alphabetical.
Okay, then Mr. Shelby's not here. I forgot.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. Let's move on to tab number E then. Discuss and to consider resolution 895-I-2022, resolution amending the city's personnel and procedures manual to authorize the offering of health benefits coverage to city retirees, to repeal all resolutions in conflict provide an open meetings clause, and set an effective date. So, Ms. Turner?
About 4 or 5 years ago, the city changed its personnel policy and it allowed retirees to stay on the city's health plan. Obviously, they paid for the coverage themselves, but they were paying at the same rate that the city was paying for employees. This was at a time when, if you remember, we went through the Obamacare and the open enrollment and the pricing that they were going out, and what we heard from a lot of retirees is that, you know, they were paying anywhere from $1,000 to $1,200 a month for insurance, and they were hoping that they could capture some savings by being on the city's insurance policy. So that was approved back then, and then what we have found is that we do have some people who are under the age of 65 and that are still utilizing the city's insurance policy, and we have one person who's over the age of 65 and on Medicare and is still using the city's insurance as a supplemental insurance because they have extraordinary health care costs, extraordinary need for prescription items of that nature. So when we went back and went through our health insurance plan with our consultant last time, he had made the recommendation that we change our retiree insurance and do what a lot of cities do, which is provide the coverage for the employee, allow the retired employees with the greater health care cost needs to stay on it, but they pay the higher premium so that there is a balance out in the amount that the city pays and that employees pay for their dependents, for those who have dependent coverage. So that is what we are proposing in this year. We're proposing to ratchet it up over a 2 or 3 year period. So if they are currently retired and on the city's insurance program, they will stay at paying the monthly rate that the city pays for individual employees. This is for new retirees, so those that would be retiring January 1st, 2023 or after. So it's only everybody else is grandfathered. So that's what we are proposing this evening, and that is does not affect the dental or the vision plan because that's not a group policy. That's an individual policy.
Okay, let me go ahead and entertain a motion, and then we'll open up for discussion.
Move for approval.
Motion by Councilmember Najarian. Second, do I have a second?
I second, Mr.
Second by
Mayor.
Councilmember Buck. All right, discussion. Mr. Vaughan?
I guess I'm concerned about our current employees and what it's doing to their premiums for if they have dependent care. And so the retirees paying a little bit more, I guess, helps them kick into the kitty to help with the overall cost, but it doesn't really do anything to help in current employees who might have dependents. And so I think the only way to really alleviate that problem is to limit how much retirees can be on the plan. Because the more we have options for retirees, when they underwrite for insurance, they're going to say anybody who could possibly be on there, they're going to assume the worst because their insurance, they assume that they're going to have the worst case scenario that these people are going to jump on the plane even if they're not. So even if we're charging more the retirees, the insurance companies are still going to say these people are going to get on, it could be expensive, so our rates for everybody are going to be high. I know there's kind of a mix in the area of what cities do. Some will offer retiree insurance, some don't. Some have pretty stringent requirements to get it, like you have to hit 20 years of service before you can get it. And I would like to see us be a little bit more stringent and kind of force them onto Medicare when they have that availability because Medicare is a great program for them. And then maybe have a longer requirement than to be able to be on retiree insurance, if at all. I think it might not be worth the benefit for the trade-off between allowing retirees to stay on and higher premiums for our employees, I think is not a great trade, and I would rather go the other way towards our current employees if we could.
So perhaps based on what you said, I think we are covering one of those. So there is a clause in here that states at any time whether they are, when they go on Social Security or Medicare, which comes with Social Security, that they can no longer be on the city's plan, whether that be because they got it because they're on SSI disability or because they have turned the appropriate age for when they were born to be on Medicare. So that clause is in here. So perhaps maybe what you're thinking is that, as an example to say, in order for the retiree to join and continue to use the city's insurance policy, they had to have been an employee for 15 years and 1 day or something of that nature. Is that correct?
Right, so if they joined at 55 and worked for a couple of years, that they then couldn't be on the health insurance plan for the next 8 years to
Got
get
it.
to 65.
So it's more of a long-term, a benefit for long-term employees and not necessarily short-term employees.
Correct. And perhaps we could grandfather people that are really close. You know, if we have a person who's 60 that was thinking about retiring next year and they're kind of relying on this, we could sort of gradually implement
And we
this.
probably do, so maybe, following your direction, maybe when we come back in December of 2024 to give the ones that we know are retiring in this upcoming year that are intending to use it, maybe in 24, we add the stipulation of January 1st, 2024, that they have to have been with the city X number of years before they're eligible for the retiree insurance. Does that seem a good compromise?
And you're saying you put that in now to say that as of that date so they can plan for it? We're saying 2 years we'll decide whether we want to do that.
So we have to approve this every year because the rates are going to change every year. So I'm saying when we come back in December of 2023, we should change the policy for anybody who's going to join after this year. Whether we add that in there, well, we don't have a chance to improve it now. We could change the dates on here. We can add that in, whether you want it for this coming year or you want it to take effect for anyone who retires in 2024 and forward.
Okay, I think I know what you're saying, but I don't know how to enact that, so.
Yeah, I don't know. We have to, well, you all have to give me direction. Do you want that to happen right away for the employees who are retiring in 2023? Or do you want the term limit for employment, whatever that number happens to be, you can tell me that number, to happen in 2024
Okay, discussion.
The insurance rates go in
So
effect
that's
the
interesting
first of
point.
every year.
Interesting point that Mr. Vaughan brought up, so, hey, Paul?
I think Mr. Vaughan's point is very well thought out. I like that. I am like the 15 years, but I'm for more of the longer term, instead of right now. That what, did you say 2024?
No, the question is when do we enact? If you
Yeah.
want that, when do we enact it? Because this policy and the new insurance takes effect on January of 2023. So in 2023, we know that we'll be having people who are already put in for retirement in
Right.
2023. Are we going to make that applicable to them, or are we going to wait and apply it to anyone who comes forward in 2024?
I like 2024.
Okay, and then as you're having your discussion, if you could tell me the year,
That's real
and then also the question is how many years do you think that employee needs to be with the city in order to have that benefit?
Yeah, those are both
It's rather arbitrary.
Okay, so the potential is 2023, 2024. And how many years of service would they need to be able to potentially qualify for this? Rather than, like Phil said, 3 years, I mean, gosh, so would you think 10, 12, 15, whatever? So let's try to give some more guidance to Ms.
And I don't want to throw any more wrenches in it. So one of the things you have to consider is when somebody is in the municipal government organization or a county, so they're on whatever the program is, ours is the Texas Municipal Retirement System. Some people may have already worked for us for 5 years, but they may have worked 25 years in service to other cities. So you have to decide if it's going to be combined service or if it's just going to be City of Universal City. It's a little wrench I'll throw in. And again, I'll take whatever direction you give me.
Okay, so she threw another little.
Yeah, I know, sorry.
It's okay, Kim, sorry.
Just trying to think of all the contingencies.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I like the 10-year term as sort of the cutoff. That's just to throw out some other numbers. 10 years working for Universal City as a condition to continue on our healthcare plan following retirement. Ms. Turner, do we currently have anybody with an application to retire on a specific date after this resolution would take effect?
Yes, we know we have several people who have already effectively will be retiring in 2023, having 20 to 25 years of service with the city.
So if we were to amend the resolution before passage tonight, if we were to add that stipulation for this current resolution that's before council to stipulate for this resolution that it be tied to 10 years of service with Universal City, that would not adversely affect anybody who currently has a pending application for retirement from Universal City.
So not knowing everyone who is intending to retire, I only know those that.
Not intending.
Yes.
People who have submitted their paperwork and made it formal, I wish to retire from Universal City effective, the week of, pay period, whatever.
I believe they've all been here more than 10 years.
Okay. Next question is, if we propose this change to the ordinance, can we read it tonight and pass it on the first reading? Or would we have to do a public notification again? Is that a significant change?
This is a resolution. It doesn't require 2 readings. It only requires 1 reading and it becomes effective immediately.
Okay, so we can make that change to add a time, a length of service provision to the resolution.
Yes.
And thank you for clarifying my mind.
The effective date, you can always take a look at the effective date as well, which has been brought up as maybe 2024 instead of 2023. So, okay, those are some of the factors. Mr. Neville, you had a comment?
So, I'm sorry, I just wanted to propose,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, that maybe you could take a poll of the council members. Are we willing, or do we wish to add a length of service clause to the resolution? And if so, how many years should that be? So that the council can come to a consensus and give Ms. Turner the guidance that she needs.
Yeah, after we get some more discussion, I will
Good. Thank you,
definitely
sir.
do that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Neville.
I'm just wondering, are there different levels of payments that the retired would be? Suppose you have one set of conditions, or like Medicare or Medicaid, where you have different levels of.
We have 3 options for insurance plans. You have your high deductible, and that's, hey, I never get sick, so I want to pay the lowest amount possible. I have a very high deductible, and I'm willing to pay for whatever I can out of my pocket. And then you have your HMO, where they're required to have a primary care physician, and they can only go to a specialist if they have the referral. That's a higher price. The prices are in the actual application. And then we have the EPO, is where I pick my primary physician, and I want to pick all of my own specialists. I don't want to have to go to a referral. And so those are the 3 plans. And of course, each one of those plans comes with a separate cost, whether it's for the employee or for the retiree. Those have the ratcheting effects for the retiree as well.
What might be a level, what was the highest level cost?
For the retiree,
Yeah.
that would be the EPO, where they have their own primary physician, and that would be $798 a month.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's in here. Yeah.
But if you went out on the open market as an individual, I know it seems a lot, but on the open market as an individual, this is still relatively low. Insurance is.
Thank you.
Yeah, actually, that's right here.
Tricare?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. So, just if you can ballpark for me, how much will this save our current employee per month that's doing this? I mean, are they currently paying $1,000 a month and it's gonna go up to $1,030, or are they paying $1,000 a month and it's?
So if you're a current employee and you choose to be on the city's plan, and not all employees are on the city's plan, even though it's available to them, they have the option of doing it. A lot of them are military, or they have a spouse that works somewhere else and they're on their spouses. So not all employees have the city's insurance, right? If you were a full-time city employee and you choose to be on the insurance plan, then the city pays for the employee insurance. And it is, depending on which plan, $638 a month to $443 a month. The retiree currently pays, whatever the city pays for an employee is what the retiree is paying. We're just recommending that retirees pay a higher premium to offset the difference. Where the real rubber meets the road is for the employees that have dependents. because those are the very highest people that you pay for on your insurance plan is your dependents. And we do have employees that do have insurance for their entire families, and they pay a boatload of money. Way more than a retiree would be paying.
I'm just
So,
trying to
trying
understand
to balance all
how much are we, I mean, how much are we helping our current employees? Is it $10 a month or is it $110 a month?
Well, a lot of that depends on the number of retirees that take the plan, right? We don't know. There are some unknowns. We're just going based off of health conditions and prescription requirements and for an older population and what that does to younger families that have more dependents. It does raise up their costs, and so to keep their costs down, we're just asking the retirees to pay more.
Well, just
So
because.
I can't put a dollar to it because there's so many variables.
Well, and that's where I get frustrated with the insurance side of this is are we putting, excuse me for being vulgar, are we putting the screws to our retirees to save our current employees $5, or are we?
No, I believe it's more than $5.
I mean, that's,
And it's not just the employees, you have to remember it's the city and the residents as well. As you know, generally we all know that the older you get, the higher your health needs and your health costs are, which, you know, instead of maybe going up 12% a year, if they have a lot of claims, we could go up 20% a year. But having them pay more for it kind of helps balance out some of that, what we're paying for each employee, plus what the employees are paying for their dependents. It's just trying to balance it out and get it as fair as possible, knowing that there's no such thing as complete fairness in this game.
Okay, I think that's fair.
What is, I don't know how you can answer this here because of the employee that you were. What is the, let's say, average if possible retirement money that person works in the city? Maybe somebody in public works.
What is their retirement? Well, that depends on how long they were here and how much they got paid.
I
So
understand.
it's individual for each person.
I understand, but is there any way you give me an average?
I do not know the average. Because what somebody making $21 an hour is going to get for retirement if they were here, 5 years and they got invested and then they retired, versus, an officer who's making $55 or $58 an hour and they've been here 35 years, obviously they're going to have a higher retirement. So there is no average. And then you have to remember too, on the retirement, even though the city's been in the retirement system a long time, at one time, they were only a 5-to-1 match. So the employee put in 5% and the city matched the 5%. Then we went to 5-to-2, and then we went to 6-to-2, and then we went to 7-to-2. And then some employees come here from another city, and maybe they made less there, and then they still are on the 5-to-1. That's why your retirement plan is based on you individually. Because, again, it has a lot of variables.
Thank you.
Okay, again, some of the options that are available for us to think about this evening is, do we want to put a limit on how many years of employment that the person would have to be potentially qualified? And we also have to look at when the effective date would be. Right now, the effective date, if this resolution were to be passed, would be January 2023.
Yes, that is to go with no, there's no term, terms of service in here.
Exactly.
It's just for any future retiree in this next year, that's what their rates would be if they retired any time in 2023.
Okay, let me take a little poll of the council here. Mr. Beck proposes probably at least 10-year employment with the city of Universal City, not any other city, but strictly with Universal City. How does that agree with you guys?
I believe, Mr. Mayor, it was first brought out in 2010, and I like the 15 year and putting it into, giving some time out there into the year 2024.
for Universal City employees.
Okay, so we have potential of 10 or 15. So I have one recommendation is 10, Paul's is 15. So Phil, what do you like?
15, just say.
10. Bear?
15.
Okay,
15.
all right, so 15. Kim, let's look at 15 on that. And how about the effective date? Do we want to make it in this resolution starting in 2023, or do we want to move it? Let's keep it right.
Do you think it's simple, do you think if we did January 1, 23, that it would directly impact anybody like immediately? Or would it still be kind of a 24
I'm kind
facto?
of looking at people, anybody who has somebody retiring. I know we have several
I got some.
officers, but I don't know how long.
That don't have
that's
15.
been here.
I think they have, I know the long-term one's got more than 15, it's not like one or two below.
And of course, if it's at 15 and we just move it from 2023 to 2024, that's not going to make any difference unless someone's right at the 14-year point.
That's true.
Okay, so I think the consensus is 15 years employment with the city. And the effective date would be, again, my recommendation to you guys is we keep it at 2023.
I'll go with your recommendation. Yes, sir.
Concur. Okay, so we do have a motion and a second already, don't we?
Correct.
Okay, and whoever did you make the motion? Who made the motion?
I made the motion.
And seconded by Mr. Byrd. So you want to make sure, is that in your motion, 15 years and?
15 years, Universal
Beginning.
City employees only, 2023.
Okay,
And so this will take some massaging by us, obviously, because we have some employees who maybe come and work for us for 6 years, then they go off for a while and they work for someone else, and then they come back and then they work for us again. So we're gonna have to massage that language a little bit, but
Okay.
we'll do the best that we can. If we have any questions on it, then probably what we'll do is in January, we'll bring it back to you.
why don't you plan on bringing it back to us in the first meeting in January?
Because we can't approve it as it is written now and then make the changes again and come back.
That's correct.
Correct.
Is that what you're asking me to do? You're gonna approve what you have before you, and then I'm gonna come back as soon as I can get the legal language for
With
terms
the
of service.
stipulation we made with the 15-year.
Yes, 15 years
Yes.
terms of service.
Correct.
With the city of Universal City,
Correct.
which I think they
Okay.
calculate 5 months.
That's the
not
motion
years.
and that's the second. And any further discussion, anybody?
Can you just clarify, so we're voting to approve what was presented and then you're gonna bring back a different one? Or are we
That's what
voting
I'm
to
asking you.
bring back an amended one in January?
Well, the way I read it is,
I think we need to wait. I think you should just table this and let us bring it back to you. Which
Okay.
means anybody that retires between now and when we bring it back will fall under the grandfather clause.
so table means turning it down, correct?
No, it means just setting it aside for a future date.
All right,
I'm looking at our parliamentary, but here's the thing you have to understand. Okay, it's complicated. So, our January premiums our premium starts January 1st. So if we table it, then that means that anybody that retires between now and when we bring it back will be under the old rate, not the new rate for non-retirees. And they won't qualify for the 15 years of service won't matter to them. So, I don't know, my recommendation is just to table it.
I haven't heard a vote to table anything.
And a bigger-
I haven't heard a vote to table.
No,
No, I just made the recommendation.
We haven't got there yet. So right now, what we've got before us is we have a motion and a second, and we need to act on that one. And if it's defeated, we can, I don't think I can arbitrarily say, let's table this right now, because we already have a motion and a second to go along with the 15-year, with the change to the resolution that was presented to us tonight. Yes, Paul?
Could I change my motion to table it, or do we need to do this and then do another?
Well, the
You
law.
can amend your motion.
Amend my motion, yeah.
In case you still have the ability to amend the motion before we go to vote, okay.
As long as your second is willing to amend their motion as well.
I don't know what you mean by tabling. If you make a motion to table, you can't do any more business with that particular item. I don't want to.
Right, that's what we're talking about, not tabling, and I think that.
Postpone it, whatever the word is you want to use
Yeah,
instead.
postpone.
Postpone?
Yeah. Yeah, if you table it, it means it's coming back at the first meeting in January.
It means it may not have to, might not come back if someone doesn't bring it off the table. I don't understand why we're tabling with the motion.
We're not there yet to the table, so.
That's what I mean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We could pass the resolution as it's written right now. You could, and then that way it would take effect for January of 2023 with the rates that we're proposing.
Correct.
At the first city council meeting in January, you could bring back to us, Mr. Mayor, with your approval to put it on the agenda, of course, to amend the resolution, adding the verbiage, setting the time with universal city requirement, as well as
The rate.
as well as the length of service. So that you must have served with universal city for 15 years, that you must have served with universal city for 15 years. And we can amend the resolution. So, Mr. Mayor, we could go forward with the resolution as it reads right now,
And amend it.
and then amend it at the first city council meeting in January, if that's an option.
Or we can make the changes now, so that when we vote on it in January, it takes effect. Rather than to amend it, then we're going to take another council meeting to put it into motion. Correct?
But the insurance rate goes into effect
Yeah.
on January 1st.
Right.
That's why we're suggesting that we split it. One, to get the insurance rate into effect, and the second one to go ahead and get a legal definition of terms of service. Because you're just saying 15 years of service, but is that from the date of hire? Is it the date from the first hire? There's a lot of variables that go into determining length of service or term of service.
Not simply saying term, 15 years of service in universal city.
I understand that, but what if you worked for us 3 different times? Is it a culmination of all 3 times? Or is it continuous?
Why wouldn't it be?
Is it from your date of hire? Is it from your first date of hire? Or if you change positions, is it from your second position or your first position? I just think that we need to really think out what terms of service is so we don't get in a legal bind later.
Okay, let me suggest this. Let's suggest that we act on this, the resolution as it's been presented to us this evening. And you guys in the motion, obviously, and then we take a look at the length of service and have that be brought back to us after they do a little research, bring it back to us in the first meeting in January.
Yes, sir.
We don't have to amend anything, my motion is still here.
Motion and second still carry then. All right, any other discussion? All right, Chris, call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Councilmember Buck.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Neville.
Aye.
Councilmember Goolsby.
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Aye.
No, that makes sense. So I think you understand where we are right now. Everything, are we all on the same sheet? Yes. Okay, all right. Let's move down to tab number F, which is the special ordinance 308-C-2022. It's an ordinance amending ordinance 308 and chapter 3-4 of the traffic code of ordinances, removing official yield intersections, and establishing official full stop sign locations at certain street intersections in the city of Universal City, Texas, revising certain sections and paragraphs accordingly, providing severability, and setting an effective date. This will be the second reading, but I do, Mr. Schneider, I told him that I would let him make his presentation before council before we go ahead and act on this.
I had asked, one council member asked the other one to bring the packets that y'all got last week. That packet was constructed in a manner to make people think, potentially had information left out. One person was thinking, and he's not here tonight. This supplements a little bit of what was in the other packet.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Senator, try to keep your comments to 3 minutes, please.
Merry Christmas, Mayor, and fellow council person. I am Anthony Schneider Sr., Ward 2, Minnesota Drive. To many in the general public, I am well known as the village idiot. There are two complete opposite meanings to that stereotype. I take it in part as a compliment, as being someone with higher knowledge and education in the subject matter than many of the general public. All of you, like many others, only know me and don't really know me at all. Nor have you or many others taken the time to do so until it's too late. To establish a part of a great friendship and to know I'm a true friend and to have your back. First and foremost, I'm an educator at heart. Professionally, I'm a broad spectrum communication specialist from telegraph circuits still used today to radio and light communications into space, as well as electronics level troubleshooter, component level troubleshooter. I still today have my string and tin can test set. Secondly, for well over 45 years, I'm a public safety investigator, researcher, and unknown to many, an enforcer, as granted to me by the Texas Constitution. I also started at a young youthful age of 16, become a true public servant. I'm an Aggie trained certified former active Brockton volunteer firearm person, and still today a life member of that growing department. I have also proudly worn and served in the Texas Air National Guard, U.S. Air Force, and Civil Service uniforms. I chose not to retire from those, but to follow my wife's U.S. Air Force and Civil Service parachute and pilot aircrew life support career partially around the globe. Here tonight, I am addressing each of you of a growing public safety concern that's like a cancer. The excessive installation of actually and allegedly unlawful, illegal traffic control devices without any recommendation, and the obligation of an official engineering judgment and or engineering study. Many devices that shall only be installed to a very clear worded standards with respect to the Texas Administrative Codes, Texas statutes, known as the rules of the road, and the Texas Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, and many referred manuals and documents, like the document given you tonight with yellow highlighting. It has clearly been seen in the audits that I have done and completed over the 26 years I have been a resident of this city. There are exemptions that can only be done by a licensed Texas civil engineer with regard to the need and the installation of many of those devices. There has been unofficial engineering studies done by city employees that are not Texas state licensed and seal holding engineers. Yet you are basing your decisions on the statements and recommendations of the same. I have confirmed with the Texas Board of Professional Engineers and Land Surveyors that there is no city employee currently that has a license today. The ordinance tonight has an addition that was not in the original last meeting. The facts presented that night by Councilperson Shelby precipitated the change. Yet it was clearly stated and recorded that the traffic control device at Millridge Road was already a stop sign known as an R-1, which would have been a lawfully posted device if it actually was there. In the packet given to you in last meeting, that standard was admitted, just to prove the point that there was no qualified person involved. I am asking you to table the ordinance completely until it is backed by a Texas professional licensed engineer with documented judgments and studies. And I made a modification to the ordinance of two things that are left out that make reference to the statutes and manuals that this city must follow. In the small little handout front and back, Yield signs shall consist of a row of solid white isosceles triangles pointing toward the approaching vehicles extended across the approach lines to indicate the point at which the yield is intended or required to be made. That's a standard.
Mr. Schneider, you need to wrap it up. You've gone 2
Okay.
minutes over. I've given you.
I apologize, it takes so long.
That's okay. That's okay.
Review what I do, there's a lot more to it.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Okay, Ms. Hearn?
Thank you, sir. So this is the second reading, and based off the discussion from Mr. Shelby and then also from Mr. Van Martin, Randy did go back out and look at the intersection of Mill Ridge and Kitty Hawk. It was not a stop sign, it was a yield sign. So we are proposing them to make it a stop sign. So it's exactly the same as the one that's on Kitty Hawk. So that all traffic is stopping before they enter into Sunrise Canyon. Other than that, there are no changes.
No other changes. Anybody have some specific comments that you'd like to make to the city?
Motion.
All right, let me entertain a motion and then we'll continue discussion if anybody would like to discuss it further.
Move to approve.
Motion made by Councilmember Najarian,
Second.
second by Councilmember Goolsby. Okay, discussion open. Yes, Mr. Vaughan.
So Mr. Snyder had some concerns. I just want to see if you're able to maybe address them for me on the, so I do see on the prior ordinance and this ordinance that section about the transportation code manual. Do we have a manual or are we required? Do you know why that might have been, those 2 paragraphs might have been taken out?
I want to educate council on your ordinance that you have in place right now. Real quick. You can go to the highlights on there. There you go. Thank you. If you go on the ordinance, and get to the page myself here, under section 3.41, ordinance 308, public works director, traffic control engineer is the director of public works designated. The director shall serve as and is herewithin designated as the city traffic control engineer. Under E, you can read for yourselves on the other highlights. Under E, the traffic control engineer is authorized to determine and designate intersections where particular hazard exists upon other than those streets as to determine whether vehicles shall be stopped or yield the right-of-way, one or more entrances to any such yield or right-of-way intersection, and shall erect a stop and yield sign right-of-way at each such place where a stop or yield sign is required. So that gives me the authority to bring before you these ordinances on that regarding the traffic manual control devices. I don't think I have a whole lot of copies of that and I can get you those copies. Okay, when it comes to section 1A09, engineering study, engineering judgment. Definitions and support. Definition of engineering study, engineering judgment are contained here in the section 1A.13. Standard, the manual describes the application of control devices, but shall not be a legal requirement for their installation. So this manual is not the legal requirement for those locations. The guidance, the decision to use particular devices at a particular location should be made on the basis of either an engineering study or the application of an engineering judgment. What we are conducting is engineering judgment. Thus, while this manual provides standards, guidance, and options for engineering and application of the traffic control devices, this manual should not be considered a substitute for engineering judgment. Engineering judgment is exercised in the selection and application of traffic control devices as well as in the location and design of roads and streets that devices complement. Jurisdictions or owners of, there's one sentence before this. Early in the process, the location and design roads, streets, engineers shall coordinate such location and design with design placement of the traffic control devices to be used with such roads and streets. Jurisdiction or owners of private roads open to public travel with responsibility of the traffic control that do not have engineers on their staffs who are trained and experienced in traffic control devices shall seek engineering assistance from others, such as Texas Department of Transportation, their county, a nearby large city, or a traffic engineer consultant, which we have. Okay? We do this. That intersection's been looked at. We look at all these. So this, what you have before you, is the same ordinance with the addition of Mill Ridge and Sunrise Canyon, because it was overlooked, that one intersection, that one yield sign. There is no other yield signs on Kitty Hawk Road other than that intersection. By last reading, we were doing Kitty Hawk and Sunrise Canyon, adding that stop sign. It was overlooked, it was presumed, but it's not there. We're adding that on there to basically the manual says, traffic control license should be placed in a uniform and consistent manner. So you don't want to have it stop and yield. That way the people stopping know if they see cars moving, they need to be stopped at a controlled intersection. So by this ordinance tonight, every stop sign on Kitty Hawk, from Public Works Drive to Universal City Boulevard, will be all stop signs after it's approved.
Is that what's on North Boulevard? At the top of North Boulevard, that's a stopper. Is that a stopper or a yield right now?
And North Boulevard and
Kitty Hawk?
that's everything. From Public Works
Currently
Drive.
or it will be?
Yeah, North Boulevard, you're talking about?
Yeah, we're
North is stop, Choke is stop. Then the next one is Mill Ridge and Sunrise Canyon. That stops, and all the streets in between are stop signs as well, all the way to UC Boulevard.
Okay. I read the traffic manual that Mr. Snyder has given to us too, and it talks about the engineering judgment like you said, but it's also a should, not a must. So, I kind of agree with you that we might have leeway there. If we put a sign somewhere that's not supposed to be, like we made a mistake, and it was a bad call to put a stop sign there, should we be concerned about?
No, there's an engineering study. It talks about engineering studies in our ordinance. If you read the ordinance, that study has been done for the city. I don't know when it's done. I don't have a record of it. I don't know where it is. But all the ordinance placed that every street in Universal Residential Street should be at 20 miles an hour, and it dictates elsewhere in there what it should be. So we have been following those guidelines forever. So stop signs, but it gives us the jurisdiction as our city to designate what we want on our streets by your approval. So we're designating a stop or a yield based on the conditions of the roadways and the speed limit that's in place.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Buck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Randy, I'd like to give you a chance to state, sort of for my benefit, since this is the first time that this has come up as the newbie one of the newbies on council, to clarify the difference between what is our traffic control engineer, right? We can designate our public works director as the traffic control engineer, but that doesn't necessarily give you the knowledge and wisdom to be a traffic control engineer. So, in terms of and as like an electrical engineer or a mechanical engineer, something like that. So could you tell me, Randy, if you would, what experience, knowledge, training do you have to make these recommendations to City Council?
Over 30 years in this business of working with traffic engineers, getting educated by traffic engineers, going to TEACS workshops, going to different criteria over these years of doing that. This intersection has been looked at by the traffic engineer. So has Universal City Boulevard. We basically bring a consultant in at times specific to a critical change at an intersection. Placements of stop signs is not a critical change in a residential area. Traffic signals on Kitty Hawk Road, yes, that is a critical place where we have consultants that come in and they place the stop signs, the striping, everything that goes with it.
Okay, thank you. And you said that one of the options that a municipality has, absent a qualified, I don't know what the right term is, but whatever you said.
Licensed engineer.
A licensed engineer, thank you, that we can bring in consultants, and it sounds like from what you just said that we have done that. So
Yes.
we are meeting the Texas requirements.
We are meeting the requirement, and I can even consult with an engineer with Byrd County. I can even TxDOT consult with anything in our city.
Okay, and all the intersections and all the markings and all the signage and the distances and the lane and the marking widths and everything like that is all in compliance with Texas traffic codes, yes?
Pretty much, not every, we're not perfect, not everyone is. Mr. Snyder can also tell you that. There's some things out there, but there is nobody that's gonna come in our city and tell us and measure a stop bar that may be 6 inches off. Yes, they're not gonna do it. I've had that conversation with him. So long as we are not actually going out there and potentially doing it deliberately, that's where it sets me up for liability. We're doing something that is out of the realm, ignoring an intersection and like leaving the traffic lights off and letting everybody go free through an intersection. That would be liability on me. I'm not addressing it. But placing a stop sign to stop traffic is not a liability to the city.
Okay, and if at some point we determine that these were not appropriately, or maybe it wasn't the best decision to put a stop sign here as opposed to a yield sign, we can always go back and amend this and change it from a stop or a yield or completely remove it if we decide to.
Exactly.
Awesome. Randy, thank you very much. I appreciate it, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else? All right, this is the second reading, and we've had the discussion, and there's a motion and a second. Correct, Dennis?
Yes.
Okay. No other discussion, I'm going to call for the vote, please, Chris.
Councilmember Najarian?
Aye.
Councilmember Goolsby?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Neville?
Aye.
Councilmember Buck?
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughn?
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes. That concludes our business for this evening, so let me move on now to our city manager comments. Ms. Conner?
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all of you.
That's great. Okay, very good. Barrett, we'll start with you this evening.
I thought we were gonna take a vote on ties,
Oh.
That's all. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Very good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry I missed the tree lighting ceremony last night. My lovely wife sent me some pictures and videos. I'm sorry, 2 weeks ago. Last city council meeting. I understand that it was very nice. A little bit of Universal City history for everybody. December 1967, the council meeting of the Long Range Planning Committee recommended, among other things, that the congestion on Pat Booker Road could be eased by another north-south arterial road. They proposed a road running south from Pat Booker Road and west of Northview and Parkview to West Aviation. That road became, anybody? Universal City Boulevard. Universal City Boulevard was proposed on December 19th, 1967. And in another momentous event recently, I would like to take this opportunity to wish a very happy birthday to the Parks and Recreation Committee that was established on December 18th, 1979. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much.
Another little piece of trivia on Universal City Boulevard is that it was also named Heroes Boulevard by acclamation by council. So that's why you see sometimes two signs on either side going. That was Councilmember Bill Hadley's recommendation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Dick?
Another part of the history, when I got here, first time in 1962, you could buy an acre of land fronting Pat Booker Road for $200. Try that today. I want to wish everybody a happy Merry Christmas and a happy Hanukkah. We come from those roots. All of us who are Christians, we come from the Judaic roots. So happy Hanukkah and the one candle light day.
Thank you, Dick. Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to wish everybody Merry Christmas as well. But I'd also like to recognize, and I'm just going to bring up these two names because they're two people that I have known for years. I'm sure there's been a few more deaths, but I would like to recognize the passing of our very good friend and neighbor of Brian Hayden, and a good friend of mine that has just passed recently. Brian Hayden was very, as we all know, was very much a part of the city. And then another gentleman, Jerry Schrocky, who was a founding member of the Universal City Citizens Police Academy. These are some passings that were not sudden. We knew they were coming, and we rejoice in the fact that we know that they are in a better place, and God had a great plan for them and had great plans for them while they were here on this earth. And appreciate them and just wanted to recognize them. And Merry Christmas to their families, and Merry Christmas to you all. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Hey, Mayor, I just wanted to say I appreciate the discussion tonight. I mean, good conversation back and forth. And just want to wish everybody Merry Christmas.
Yes, I'll just echo that to everybody. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I guess if we don't see you, we'll see you next year. But I do want to echo what Paul mentioned about Brian. Very active. When we had events, he was always there. I think we all know that. He was constantly there. He was a wit, very funny individual. He wore some of the most outlandish costumes I've ever seen, but he was effective and just a terrific man. The Lord gave him 10 additional years when he had his heart transplant, and he's with him now, and he's happy. I'm sure it's a tough time for the family, but Brian also was a true supporter of our community. He was also a great military man as well, and was medically retired. So he served his country and he served his city very, very well. So God bless you, Brian. You're in a good spot. Thank you, everyone, for coming this evening. Have a great holiday season, and we'll see you next year. Meeting is adjourned.